Hey guys, welcome back. This is class number 2 of Poly 320, Soc 320. Start with 3 logistical points. Point number 1 is just a reminder that we will have no in-person class session August 26th or August 28th. Instead, I'll be posting videos of the class I would have given. This is because I'm traveling for my business next week and am not able to be there in person. Our first in-person class will be September 2nd, and so I look forward to meeting you all then. Second logistical note is a note on video length. I'm probably going to cap these videos at about 30 minutes apiece. That just seems to be about 30 minutes seems to be a long time for this to upload to YouTube anyway. So I am going to cap these at 30 minutes. That may mean that there's a third video. I will certainly let you know that. There also may not be. I think that I can move through the material that I want to fairly quickly. Anyway, I will keep you posted by email as to what the class schedule is and what videos you're expected to watch. Third thing is, so I got an email from somebody that there is an issue with the books in the bookstore. I haven't been able to check on that today, which is Friday. I plan to check on that Monday and understand what's happening and see if the books are in, if not when they'll be in. The only book that you need immediately is the Mannheim and Rich book. If you want to go online and get a copy of the Mannheim and Rich book, the 7th or 8th edition will probably do you just fine. But know that until the book is in the bookstore, I will understand if you don't have the Mannheim and Rich read by that class period, and I will not quiz you on the Mannheim and Rich before that class period. I will, however, it is, however, fair game for anything that I post online or that there's a link to. That still becomes quiz fair game. So you don't get out of all your reading. But I will sort of relax my expectations for the duration of time that it takes to get the Mannheim and Rich in. So anyway, what I asked you to read today was a selection from Lakoff's The Political Mind. I love starting a course with Lakoff, but before we do anything, we should probably start by separating out Lakoff's intellectual message, which I think is very valuable and very appropriate for this course, with his partisan message. There's no secret whatsoever when you read this book that Lakoff is a Democrat, wants the Democrats to succeed, wants liberal causes to succeed, and makes no bones about talking about these things in his text. Okay, in fact, at the time this was written, this was, George Bush had already been elected to his second term. We were before Obama. And so Lakoff sort of had a message that one of the reasons the Republicans would win was they had been these Machiavellian geniuses at manipulating people's emotions to vote against their better judgment. And which, unfortunately, as a liberal, I can say that a lot of times liberals look at the way that people vote and they tend to think that, oh, the poor Americans are being tricked to voting into big bad conservatives against their interests. And if only they knew better, they would be with the Democrats. They'd be with the liberals. Lakoff is certainly guilty of that. I think it's a fallacy. We can discuss that again in person maybe or some other time. I always think that attitude seems pretty condescending to the poor Americans themselves who are actually voting for the Republican Party. It could be they know exactly what they're doing. And it also muddles what I think is his far more important message, which is the intellectual message, which is his psychological message, which applies to not just partisan politics, but the way that we think about everything, and as it pertains to this course, the way that we think about social life. Okay? From the first words that we read, it's pretty apparent that at least I am out of my comfort zone. I'm a political scientist. Some of you are majoring in political science, some in sociology, some in other things. if you signed up to major in political science, chances are you thought, oh, okay, we're going to talk about international relations, or what should our policy be towards development aid to Africa, or how do we figure out who's going to get elected to president of the United States? It's not necessarily about the biology of the brain. But that's exactly what Lakoff is talking about here, right? He's talking about, and this is a quote, new knowledge gained over the past 30 years about how the brain and the mind work. What he's really talking about is, if you guys have ever done intro to psych, you might have had to do volunteer for a psychological experiment. And one of the things that they might do in a psychological experiment is put you in an MRI machine. I've been in one of these things. They basically take it and they make a tube, right? And they sort of slide you in the tube head first. And then with your head in the tube and a bunch of wires attached to your head and all of this good stuff, they start asking you questions, all right? Or they might just show you images. They might flash a picture on the screen of Hitler or of Robin Williams or the Pope or something like that. And as you don't even really need to do anything other than lie there, and the MRI measures the way that your brain works, okay? So it measures the biology of how your brain actually works. They can see in these experiments which part of your brains react and which part, and what those parts that are reacting, what they're doing, okay? Lakoff's whole point is that we now know far more about how our brains work and how our brains actually process and store information, and that has tremendous ramifications for how we think about social life. All right? And the best way to start thinking about those is to deal with the way that he thinks we do not think about political life. And this is where he talks about the Enlightenment mindset. All right? He says that most of us tend to think about politics in a way that is consistent with how philosophers of the Enlightenment thought that the human mind worked, or philosophized that the human mind worked. Okay? He means three main things, I think, when he talks about the Enlightenment mindset. All right? Number one is that we are rational beings. What does it mean to be a rational being? Number two, we weigh the evidence and base our conclusions on rational concerns. So basically what this means is that we go through and we listen to all the